This is your daily reminder that the New York Times 1619 Project is revisionist history. It's full of lies. It's so ahistorical that even the lead author, Nikole Hannah-Jones, admitted that her fundamental claim in the project was false. Why talk about this today? Because the disband the police, all white people are racist, America is systemically oppressive and evil narrative that the left is peddling as justification for their riots across the nation is largely based on the lies in the 1619 Project. The 1619 Project fomented anger and fear and anxiety and racial divide based on garbage that just isn't true. So tonight, we're going to debunk the 1619 Project's goal to, quote, reframe the country's history, understanding 1619 as our true founding, and placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the story we tell ourselves about who we are, and, quote, demonstrating that nearly everything that has made America exceptional grew out of slavery, end quote. First up, the foundational claim made by lead author Nikole Hannah-Jones, who claimed that colonists fought the Revolutionary War in order to preserve slavery. That is false. In fact, it's so false that 9 months after she published that fake narrative, Nikole Hannah-Jones admitted that only some colonists were motivated by slavery, not all of them. But that's not what she said originally, and the damage was already done because people believed her original false claim. The truth is, it was the British governor who overruled and vetoed attempts to abolish slavery in the colony of Massachusetts before the Revolutionary War. Slave trade was already outlawed even by the South, and the founders of our nation, including Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson, hoped the evil of slavery could be abolished in the wake of the war. In fact, Thomas Jefferson included in the original draft of the Declaration of Independence a paragraph decrying the evil of slavery that was imposed on the American colonies by the British Crown. Also worth noting, yes, Jefferson owned slaves himself, and that was immoral, but Jefferson also wrote the document that codified into law the idea that all men, regardless of their race, skin color, religion, heritage, etc., were equal. Slavery was then abolished less than 90 years later because of the Founding Fathers' ideals codified into the supreme law of our land. Subsequently, here we are, 240 plus years later, and despite the stain of slavery in our nation's history, America has done more than any other country to abolish slavery and racism. And racism is now almost universally rejected in America by nearly everybody. And then, the New York Times claims 1619, when the first African slaves were brought to America, was the true founding of our country. That is also false. In fact, according to Eric Erickson at The Resurgent, and I quote, the House of Burgesses convened in Jamestown, Virginia on July 30th, 1619, before any African had set foot on the North American continent. The Mayflower Pilgrims landed in New England in 1620, completely separated from those in Jamestown, with different goals, views, values, and priorities. It's also worth noting, he writes, that white indentured servants outnumbered slaves and arrived before slaves. Quibble all you want with the distinctions, but in 1619, they were roughly treated the same, terribly on all counts, end quote. In other words, the narrative of the 1619 Project is based on false premises. What the 1619 Project claims about slavery and the history of the U.S. just isn't true. But leftists are using the 1619 Project to foment racial divide in our nation to push their own far-left political agenda.